Hey, let me check in with the first two parts of War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. This is the translation by the duo, relatively recent recent in its translations, Pevere and something. Uh, I'd have to say right off the bat with the translation, I think this is echoing a shit ton of people French, untranslated French with footnotes in English. It's just like fucking put the French in translated into English in the actual text in like italics or something like that. It would be way less annoying than continually with my completely forgotten maybe 1 or 2 years of high school French and a little bit of trying to learn French later in life and then forgetting it all French, which is just like completely useless. So I'm just going bouncing back and forth from fucking footnotes. Usually footnotes which will quote will kind of wrap up all the translations of French, eliminating the parts that were actually were the Russian that were translated into English into things. So then you're kind of going back and forth and trying to figure it out. It's really awkward, really annoying. Just like the whole fucking thing should be translated into English for a unilingual guy like myself. At least that's my preference. I do not have the French. And yes, I'm a bad Canadian because of that. Je m'appelle Jay. Je m'appelle dumbass. Je est dumbass. Yeah, yeah. Or je suis dumbass. Something like that. Yeah. So there's that. That is annoying. Very much. Part one is like life before the war of the Russians going hammer and nail at the French under Napoleon, with the Austrians as kind of allies that they're not like, that great with, and everyone kind of blustery at home and just all their hopes and desires, and a little side thing with a fellow who I think is tagged as the stand-in for Tolstoy, Monsieur Pierre or or something Pierre. I think it's Pierre. Fuck, I can't remember. There's a shit ton of names in this book, and I'm not bothered about learning any of them. The ones that'll stick will be the ones that stick. Prince Andrei, who definitely comes up in part two. I quite remember. There's just all the kind of the hit and miss. He just wants to get to battle. There's other ones there who are like, oh yeah, I want there battle, battle, battle. Part two is very much we are joined in the battle, kind of the lead up and then into it, where the guys are, kind of your mix of just people, petty assholes, jackasses. There's a real striking scene where there's some fleeing German civilians, and there's like a number of women among them, and like all the male soldiers are like looking at the women like, oh, we'd like to rape you. It's basically that. And there's some jokes in there about, oh, there's a convent, and we'd like to go visit the convent and comfort the girls, which ha ha ha, rape the girls. Um, so it's definitely got that kind of really ugly, 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 brutal side of kind of the male psyche, untethered from restraints in war, uh, or very near to being untethered. And then we have the war itself, which is completely chaotic, completely just just chaos. And they have a kind of a striking thing of a commander who he doesn't actually have any handle on things, but he's able to remain calm and cool and collected and bring that calmness to his men, which is like the main thing in some ways of like, yeah, okay, good, let's keep on going. And it's funny, I can see that in some of the people that I've seen who are good managers of just like, okay, yeah, let's just keep going. Maybe they can't control anything, but they can bring that calmness, and that calmness really does help you when you're in a tough situation. And I'm not even talking about battle here. I'm just talking about like difficult work situations. Um, so yeah, there's that. There's the guy who's like desperate for battle, and then when he gets into battle, actually finds out he's fucking afraid and breaks and runs. And then there's the guys who are like, no, I just have to keep going and are able to kind of hold it together. And it's interesting. Some of the one of the like really kind of good commanders, he looks like kind of half asleep and just kind of like, yeah, whatever. When it's just the lead up to the battle, but once the battle begins, he like activates, and you can see this is he's like it's truly, it's kind of like pre-adrenaline, no knowledge about adrenaline. It's adrenaline junkie who is like, now I'm activated, in that kind of sense of like, that drive activates them, and they're kind of a full human being in that, which is interesting. And just, all the fucking bloodshed and mayhem and just uselessness of it all, and the people who are trying to weasel out of stuff afterwards, and just the people who are like, I'm not. Andreev comes across people when he has to go on a diplomatic thing, where we're saying like, you can just duck out. You can just duck out. You just stay here. No one commanded you to go back. You can just stay here and just hang out with us, because the rabble, the soldiers, they can go get killed, but we're upper elites. We don't have to do that. We could just stay here and drink coffee and smooze and be, fabulously wealthy assholes. And that's quite fine, and we'll get rewarded for it, and we'll probably be rich and decorated for it, whereas poor fuckers who are in the middle of battle, perhaps in a hopeless thing against the French, who we desperately need, they'll die, or they'll get disgraced, or they'll get horribly wounded, or they'll get, mentally fucked up. It's a fairly unromantic, as an unromantic, I think, depiction of war as you could get, especially in something that's happening in like Napoleonic War. You would think this would be, dashing men fighting, nose to eye to eye, nose to nose, dashing great charges, romantic. It's like, no, Tolstoy's not going for any of that bullshit. So that's good. That's good. I'm enjoying that so far. So, and I mean, it's funny. I was like kind of going like, oh shit, like how hard is this going to be to read? But it's like, fuck, in comparison to like Proust or something like that, this is very straightforward told, divided into small sections. Actually, being divided into small sections makes it hard to kind of read it, a whole shit ton of it at once. I find I want to read a section and pause, and read a section and pause. So that makes me go a bit slower, but it's easy enough to, it's very easy enough to read and straightforward. Yeah. So it's good that way. In some ways, it's like, it'll be interesting to see how it builds as we go along, if it becomes more impressive, because at the moment I'm just thinking, this is a very competently well-told kind of war, anti-war story, I guess. Yeah. All right. I will leave it there. More videos later.